say is was dating a guy who was in the program, and I supported his decision to not drink, and I, you know, commended him for his choice. And I thought, I really don't need alcohol in my life, and so I'm gonna remove it. And it wasn't until I removed it that things started to bubble up and surface for me. And I would go to meetings and I would sit there and listen, and I never really felt like somebody would understand where I was coming from. I was in denial with myself. A lot of my story, I didn't hear so many people discuss so many similar things at the table. So I just kind of felt like an outsider. But something drew me back and I kept going, and I'm very happy that I did. I wasn't until like 3 months into my decision to stop drinking that I realized and accepted that I was an addict. I was at an AA convention and I was listening to the speaker, and the speaker was talking about some of his behaviors that he did when he was in denial of being an addict. And one of the things he said was he would come home from work and he would drive by the liquor store, go in, buy some liquor, leave, go home, drink some, and while drinking, get this feeling that you just needed some more to fulfill something inside of you, or some to feel comfortable. And so he would dump some of it out or all of it out. And then the next day on his way home from work, he would go back by the liquor store and buy more liquor. So it was this pattern that he had of just dumping it down the drain because the next morning he realized he shouldn't have drank so much or whatever. And I thought to myself, people don't do that. And because that's something I did. I would constantly go buy liquor and then dump it out because I didn't like how I felt that night or the next morning or whatever. Or I made really awful decisions when I was drunk and I didn't want to feel that again. But then it was just this like routine I would do. So I thought, okay, that's weird. Maybe just, I guess I didn't know that was an addict thing. And then the other thing he mentioned too was every time he drank, he would black out. And I thought also, is that not normal? But I'm 33 years old. I've been drinking since I was 15, and not consecutively, like throughout the years. There were many times where I would stop drinking because I got myself into a situation and I was kind of afraid of drinking again because I blacked out and did irresponsible things. And so I would try to not drink and I would do okay for a while, but I would, in the absence of the alcohol, would take pain pills. And that came very easily to me, and I'll explain that, or they were available to me, I should say, and I'll explain that in a second. But anyways, and then the last thing the speaker said was he would hide his liquor on himself to make it kind of challenging for him to get to it. And while I'm sure other people were like, oh, that's, crazy, I'm like, that's normal. Like, who doesn't do that? There are so many times where I would put it like somewhere in my basement in the corner, like in a box, so that it was like a little bit harder for me to get to. And I really don't understand it. But so anyways, I walked out in the hall and I was like overcome with like relief because I understood myself a little bit more, but I was also scared because I didn't know what it meant for me. But then I looked around and I'm like, I'm at an AA convention. I've already made the choice not to drink, and I'm right where I need to be. So I still was kind of like, you know what, I like going to these meetings, and but I don't know about this whole sponsor thing. I think I have a problem with alcohol and I have a problem taking pills, but I don't know about this whole sponsor thing. So I didn't have a sponsor for the next, let's see, like 6 or 7 months after that. I was kind of like, still felt like I had it. I still felt like I had some control, because I love control. But I just thought, okay, I'll take bits and pieces and, take it from there. I would go to meetings, and because I didn't hear anybody with the same sort of situation as me, all I was hearing were like sound bites. All I was hearing is one day at a time, or all those other sound bites that you hear at meetings and at the tables that just become repetitive, but like I wasn't understanding them. I'm like, yeah, or just people would say things like, it is what it is, and God's got you, and I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, yeah, I can say that and feel good about saying it, but like, does anybody even know what that means? I see Juliet's laughing. Okay, anyways, so I was like, I don't know what any of this means. So I thought, ugh, maybe the sponsorship has something, to it. And so I found a sponsor. We started reading oh, by the way, I like read the big book all by myself, because I just, picked it up and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna at least do this. It was gibberish to me. It was in a different language, but I really loved the old timey talk. But anyways, I just needed someone to like go through it with me. So I found a sponsor. We walked through every single word. And it was really, really great. And then I finally started like understanding where these sound bites came from, where these phrases came from, and why they work for people. And I was with her during my fourth step, and then we had a problem with scheduling. So I found another sponsor, and her and I were very rigorous about, meeting. She lived far away, but we like kept in touch, and I went and I finished all the steps, and I was like, okay, so spiritual awakening, come and get me. But I didn't feel it right away. And I thought maybe it wasn't like working for me. Um, but it wasn't until like the past 6 months that I started working what I learned during that time. And I actually like applied it. And it was great. This has been a very challenging year. Hosting, being aside many personalities, all that are addicts, um, has its challenge, and the challenges allowed me to really, really apply all the things that I learned, and continue to learn. And I realized like this is not a cure. There's no cure. This is something I'm going to have to live with daily. A cure means it's like gone and it's not coming back. I have this, it's always with me, and it's not going anywhere. But I have the choice whether to feed it or not, so to speak. If I think, how do I put this? I think that what's his name? So I like to learn a lot about the history of AA when I first got involved. So I was really fascinated by Bill W. Learning or talking about the teachings of the Oxford group, and the founder of the Oxford group said something along the lines like, it's a physical disease, but it's very much so a spiritual disease. So now I don't have a substance, but I still find myself with this like horrible way of thinking, and my mind gets in the way of me being healthy. And that's the spiritual aspect, is I'm always going to be diseased, because even if I'm not drinking or using, it's my mind that gets in the way. And it's just so fascinating. When I met my boyfriend and he was telling me about the program, I was so like blown away, because he was telling me that, this guy, Bill W., Dr. Bob, and all this stuff, there are these teachings, and there are this set of guidelines, And I was thinking, wow, so you've been an addict for all this time and you've chosen to like rewire your brain. And I was so amazed by him and anybody who could do that, because I could relate with natural obsessions. But to get out of bed and think, I'm not going to think about alcohol and I'm not going to think about pills. I am going to feel all of these emotions in the day, and I'm going to feel them raw. I'm going to feel the good, the bad, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. And it was just like, I was just blown away. So I guess in a way, my boyfriend had something that I wanted. And I thought it was amazing. And then to go to a meeting with a bunch of people around me who were all on board with this whole rewiring process, it just blew my mind. And then going and working all the steps, I had to like unearth all of these things that my mind had like put in a vault to like protect me or something. I like didn't realize I had these like childhood traumas. I didn't realize why I was numbing myself with these substances. But now I'm aware of them. And that is like a really beautiful thing, because something happens and my first thing that happens is I'm like checking myself. I'm like, was that the right thing to say? Am I self-seeking? Am I manipulating this to get my own way? And like, wow, that's like something I never, ever, ever imagined would be my way of life, my way of thinking. If it was, it definitely wasn't going to be my go-to. Now it's my go-to, but I have to nurture this, and I have to continue to use these in every day, or else I'm going to slip. And I can see how easily that could happen. And that's how real this is. But so going back a little bit, I want about my story about how my addiction did start. Was I have lupus. It's an autoimmune disease, and I've had, I'm 33. So for the last 20 years, I've had, or at least 20 years consecutively, I was having multiple surgeries a year. I never felt good. It took doctors a long time to figure out what was going on. And I just never felt good. So you can imagine having surgeries. I got pain pills. I was in the hospital. I had morphine. I had whatever ailment was going on. I had something to mask it. A lot of the times, doctors were not helping the root of the situation. They were just masking it. And so I spent so much of my time just masking things. Like that was just my way of doing things. It was normal. And so I'm very sensitive emotionally and physically. But what would happen when I took pills was that they would prescribe me a certain amount and I would take them, but my body had a very like dramatic response to it. So I've OD'd on Vicodin countless times, and doctors have given me medicine or after a surgery in my IV, and I OD'd in front of them a couple of times. So I cannot handle anything, but it didn't stop me. 20 years. I just I would try it just to see maybe this time it would be different. And I had a very similar reaction when I drank too. And my dad is an addict. He was in jail. He worked the program. Now he just drinks. He doesn't work the program. My mom is an addict. She takes a lot of pills, and she's manic depressive, and she just has a lot of issues, her own battles. So growing up, I didn't really think I was much like my dad because I wasn't drinking in the car. I wasn't drinking a ton after work, I thought that my amount of drinking was healthy, but never realizing that the effect of the alcohol was way worse. And I think that was the hardest thing for me to come to grips with, is that my norm or somebody else's normal was like my excessive. And in this society of drinking and all that, people are drinking, I mean, way more than I was. And so I think that was definitely a hard thing for me to come to grips with, in addition to the medicine, being prescribed the things that were perpetuating my obsession with this. But so fast forward to now, I still have lupus. I still have a lot of health problems all the time, and I cope with them differently. And it's been very, very wonderful. A lot of this, my disease can be helped with stress, like relieving stress and just not being as stressed out. And before finding the program, like I said, I just was taking pain pills to mask everything. Now I like seek alternate things, like maybe exercise is good. Maybe I should watch what I'm eating. Maybe I should do this or that. So there's just so much more thought that goes into it. And also, what was I going to say? Forgot. I don't remember. I know. Off topic a little bit, but so one of the things that happens today is I have the tools of the program, but I have, because of all this like unearthing and stuff like that, my defense mechanism for myself was just to like block everything out. So the last 6 months especially, I've had a lot of things surface that I forgot about from my childhood, or as a young adult, that made it very difficult. When I, at the worst part of my addiction, I would say, I was drinking at work, and I was married at the time, and I was drinking excessively, and I was drinking in bad company, people who were not looking out for me, obviously, and I wasn't looking out for me. But I was sexually abused when I was drinking, and I had to come home to my husband at the time, and I felt like gross. I knew I shouldn't have been drinking. I knew I had an issue. I knew, but I thought I was still to blame for what happened to me. And, partly I was, because I was drinking, but I hid it from my husband. I was ashamed. And I talked about that in my 4th step. And because I was in this way of thinking that to address things nowadays instead of like blocking them out, I had to go back and remember that I was molested 3 times by 3 different people when I was under the age of 10. And that's not an easy thing to face. However, I'm so thankful because I'm facing them with all that I need in front of me. I'm feeling everything, I'm addressing it, and I feel sick about it, but like I've never been healthier, if that makes sense. I can't say enough like how grateful I am for the program and for the people, and my ability to just stop and reflect and just think about listen to my higher power. Because today he speaks to me. When I listen, he speaks, and I'm listening all the time now. And having faith means something to me now. It's not just something that, my aunt says, oh, have faith or something. Like I actually know what it is and I feel it and I understand it. Um, I never set a timer. Is someone gonna tell me when you could just, wave when I should be done? Okay. But so I have all of these things now, and I don't know. I'm really grateful. Um, I don't. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. Um, Along with this, like I was open to finding a solution, and I was willing, but like this whole honesty business is really tough. So like that's the other thing. I have to be honest with myself about these things that go on in my head, because my mind plays tricks on me. It's a very powerful thing. And if I get comfortable in my sobriety, then bad things will happen to me. My dad always told me that comfortable is a very dangerous place to be. And I never understood what he meant by that. But I get it now. I can't become content, and I have to continue to be honest with myself. Um, Another thing that the Bill W. talked about, that the founder of the Oxford group said was, oh, I'm trying to remember how it goes. Like, confession is a prerequisite. And that is so powerful to me because it's a prerequisite to change, because you have to be honest to change. If not, you're just like stuck in a rut. And I've lived my whole entire life that way, and nothing good happened from that. So like now I'm completely open and honest, and I'm confessing these things, and it feels really good. And I don't know, I think that's all. But I'm really happy I had this opportunity, and thank you. I get really nervous talking in front of people, even like this, even in my own home. But thank you for everybody here who listened.